Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining this evening. I really appreciate it. I have my co-host here, Tamika. You're so awesome. Thank you. So we have a great show for you all this evening. We do. I am just so blessed to have Mike Howard with us this evening. He works with Cardio Miracle, and it is such a great product. I would just tell you that because I have used it for the last couple months. It's a good product. We'll be talking about that, but we are going to be talking about computers. We're going to be talking about manufacturing. We're going to be talking about uh, how all of this developed into what Mike is doing today. He has worked closely with Tony Robbins in the past. We're so blessed that he does. And I'm very, very excited to bring Mike in. I'm going to go ahead. You know that I support the Chemo Buddies for Life. It's an awesome community. We love them. We also want you to know that you can be a part of that. It is cb4l.org. And let's go ahead and listen to what they have to tell us.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a Chemo Buddy for life.
We are a Buddies Network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are Chemo Buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
Awesome. All right, we have a special guest this evening, Mr. Mike Howard. How are you doing, Mike?
Very well, Stephen. How about yourself?
I am doing well. And how about you, Tamika?
I'm doing awesome. Glad I can make it tonight.
Yes.
Hi, Tamika. How are you?
I'm doing
We're
well,
very
Mike.
happy that you could make
Awesome
it.
story.
Absolutely. I'm seeing all this glare. Clearly, I didn't turn off the lights, so that's all good. Yeah, it's live, so that's just the way it works. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. Well, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, Mike? And I'm just going to hop off and get this light off. How's that?
All right, fabulous. Well, I reside in the city of Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm a lifer, born and bred here since 1958. My dad's family came to America in the 1640s, and my mom's parents came over separately. They married here from the great country of Lithuania back in the early 1900s. So my history is this city, and I've been very lucky to have. I had great parents while they were alive, and I have 7 siblings and four sisters and 3 brothers. Grew up with a very raucous baby boomer family, and being a 6th of 8 could be challenging. Of course, you had to kind of fight for your rights. You're 6th of 8, and so you kind of get a little more determined and fired up to be successful. I have a PhD in failures and miscalculations. Just wanted to be clear about that. What that means is that I learned. I dropped out of college and I learned the hard way. I went to work. I worked in blue collar. I got in deep into the manufacturing of wire extrusion, realizing that that was not my future, smelling cadmium and nickel. So I ended up getting into what you might call a white collar production environment, which was the world of semiconductors in the 1980s. And that's where I cut my teeth in the ability to understand who and what people are in terms of a work relationship. The company I worked for, Digital Equipment, was an extremely big company. It was the second largest computer company at that time, behind IBM. So there was a lot of opportunity for growth within that world.
And that's what a team effort is what you focus in on. That's where so that came from your manufacturing experience, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I was entry level, because I am non-degreed, which is the true statement. I was entry level when I went to digital, and I worked in a fab called fabrication area, manufacturing conductors inside a clean room environment. And of course, Intel is the big company that we know about. There's other companies that are big, prominent semiconductor manufacturers. Back in the day, it was Fairchild, Motorola, but digital wanted to create its own chips because they were, buying them from outside sources, and they couldn't depend on those sources. So they created their own manufacturing facility in a town about 20 minutes from where I live, and they were hiring people in the very early 80s. In 1980, I got a job as a third shift. I think it's like a lab coat job, but you put on bunny suits. And my job from midnight to 8 was standing in front of a sulfuric acid strip bath area, and I would put on a timer. And it's not the fancy timers we have today, on our cell phones. It was one of those actual clock timers. And for 5 minutes, the wafers go in one sulfuric bath, click, bing, put it in the second one, bing, put it in the third one. And what the sulfuric did was it stripped off something called photoresist. And if you know anything about imaging and cameras and, actually making photographs the old way, you were etching actual circuitry on these silicon wafers. And you would continually you would photograph the next level, and then you would etch it in, and then you would clean off the resist, and then you would put a new material on, like a metal material, and then you would go and you would put another image on it, and then you would etch it again, and then you would clean off the residual. And eventually you build tunnels and buildings, actually. And you might have seen the movie Tron when you were younger, where they were zipping around in a semiconductor. They were zipping around in the chip. And that's what we built. And I learned it from ground level up. And the computer industry, while it was already an industry, is nothing like it is today. In 1980, Apple was a baby. Microsoft was a baby. They truly were. They were not big multi-billion, like Apple's $1 trillion company now. Like, who would have thought? But we were doing about $13 billion in revenue, and I was just a lowly third shift, $4.15 an hour guy stripping wafers. And I had to wear a mask because I had a beard. And if you had a beard and a lot of hair, you had to have it all capped away because any particle could destroy your product. So you learn about quality. You learn about productivity and efficiency. You learn about these different areas of people working, and you had to work cross-team functionally. You had to work cross-shift functionally because you'd be showing up to work, and there'd be product in process. So you had to learn how to communicate. And remember, you're in these bunny suits, and they're bunny suits. Like, you're literally covered. And when you talk to people, it's not as clear. It's loud noises because they had the environment was such that you were whooshing air out, constantly air changing to keep the particle levels down. Because usually when you live in any environment, particles come off your skin, particles come off the wall, and they damage that. And nowadays, when I started, it was 3-inch wafers, like 3-inch wafers. What I understand now is they're pizza size. They're 12-inch wafers now. And the technology, of course, has, and I think NVIDIA is like the big shot right now with all the specialty chips. But Intel still makes the chips that go in, Intel and AMD, they make the chips that go in, the laptops that you and I are using, in that. So that was a great cutting my teeth and understanding how to work with other people. And they offered a lot of training and a lot of schooling where you could, they would pay for courses outside of. And I got into Tony Robbins because I was a big advocate of personal growth. Nightingale Conant was a very popular company when I was in my 20s, and they sold personal development audio cassettes. Earl Nightingale was very famous for he cut a recording in the 60s called The Strangest Secret, and it was actually on a 78, I believe, the original thing. And Earl had the voice, the broadcaster voice. It was just gravel, beautiful, beautiful voice. And The Strangest Secret is all about, like, if you see it, you believe it type of thing. Like what you think about all day long, all of this stuff. James Allen wrote it back in the late 1800s. But everyone comes around, and this, The Secret came out years later by Rhonda, and they created, their own thing. So there's always that. It's a rotational thing that comes back. But Earl made it famous on the first recording. But I was into the tapes, and I got into Brian Tracy. I got into Wayne Dyer. I got into Dennis Waitley. Tom Peters, even Tom Peters, the management guru at the time. And I was fascinated with what Tom had to say.
Absolutely.
And of course, those books are archaic now, and I have many of them. I have many books around me, but over on my other side is all my business books. I got, 14 shelves of business books that I've, accumulated over, a 40-year plus year career. But that was where I cut my teeth. But I figured that I learned about personal growth while I was working in a corporate environment. And I went from entry level, $4 an hour, $4.15 an hour, in 1980. And 8 years later, I got promoted 6 levels, and I became the manufacturing manager of 3 front-end facilities, which was now this is 1988, a $26 million budget, where that's what my cost center spent annually. I actually ran 3 cost centers, and we were responsible for, get this, $1 billion in revenue a year, because our chips, when we moved them to the next customer, and that was us, internal, all right? So I'm talking funny money, like we didn't sell the chips and make $1 billion. We sold the chips to our inside customer, and our inside customer then put the chips into the module, and then the module was sold, and then finally the computer went out, and that's how you have a $13 billion company. But we were responsible for $1 billion worth of revenue, and I'm that non-degreed guy running those 3 facilities. And it all had to do with understanding teamwork, because I found that within the organization, you had the core manufacturers, and then you had the support groups, you had the process engineers, you had the equipment engineers, a fancy name for maintenance techs, the guys who know how to fix a car are the same guys who know how to fix $1 million metal machine that applies metal on it. Those guys have that kind of a brain. They're wired that way. And then we had the quality people that came in and made sure we did our job right. And we were in specifications, specs in that. So if you can get along with all of those people, then you can get things done. But what happens in the culture of any job is that people have this tendency to push back on each other because of ego, because of turf, like it's my turf, etc. So one of the things that I had this natural ability, and I didn't know I did, but I had ability to be with people in their place. And it went back to high school. Like I was fairly smart academically when I wanted to be. Could get bored very easily, but I got along with the smart kids. I was athletic to some extent, so I got along with the jocks. I got along with the grease monkeys, if you want to call them that. The guys that were working, they were in the automotive part. Most of their coursework was that, not just they had to do academic, but those were the guys who were going to become our tradesmen, right?
Right.
And gals now, but in those days it was 99% men that were the young men that were doing it. But I got along with those guys too. And so it's weird because I didn't know it at the time, but as I got older into my 20s, I started noticing the differentiation of certain people, like the process engineers or all the calculus kids and the smarty pantses, and I could relate to who they were in high school. Now they're adults,
right?
And then I can relate to the maintenance guys, and I go who those guys are, and then I related to to the other types of people, and before you know it, they go, Mike Howe's a pretty good guy. Mike Howe's a pretty good guy. So I get less pushback. So as I got promoted from operator to operator 2 to operator 3 to work coordinator to line supervisor to senior supervisor to business manager and beyond, I brought a whole group. People were they kind of liked me enough to get things done. And when we hired people from the street, all right, and that was $7 an hour. People got the cost of living, but when we were managing large groups of people, we asked for a 1-year commitment to work in the fab as a manufacturing tech. And a lot of people came in as a stepping stone, and a lot of people didn't want to hire people that were going to leave in a year. But I had a different idea. I said, if I help train these people to become better and well educated about the fab, and when I mean educated, I mean understand the equipment, the process, and really get along with people, then if they move to another part of the company, they're going to support me anyways, because they're going to be working for processing.
So teamwork was a big important part of it, and I want to kind of back up here a little bit because I heard you talking.
I give it the man or woman who's most powerful is the one who gives away the most power. That's something that I came up with many years ago, and I'll say that again: the man or woman who's most powerful is the one who gives away the most power. And what happens is human beings they go up in stature and they become the big boss, but you got to give your power away, and then people will come back to you. And we were able. The story is that our company was concerned. We had to make a brand new chip that was going to revolutionize everything about our company. It was going to add revenue like crazy. And the people who ran the company didn't trust that our fabrication facility in Hudson, Massachusetts, they didn't believe that we could cut it. So they hired out Toshiba, and they gave Toshiba the plans too, the design. And they said to us, and our boss, Dwayne Dicka was his name, very, very brilliant man. He ran our entire operation, hundreds and hundreds of people, literally, tens of millions of dollars in budget. And they said, you guys are going to run the pilot, you're going to run the prototype, but we don't trust you enough to put all eggs in one basket. So we're going to go to Toshiba and give them the design. Well,
it's not really smart to put all your eggs in one basket, is it? You need to spread your business out to multiple potential suppliers, or I think you're talking about suppliers, so that you don't end up counting on one person, then they let you down, and the next thing you know, you're out of business because
what if you have a
you
fire?
lost a big account.
Yeah, what if your facility has a fire? What if there's a flood? Those things happen. So yeah, the company was smart, but they also got us incensed because Dwayne was like, "We got to do this, man. We got to get this done. We got to have in order to get. We call it a lot. Okay, a lot is a box of wafers that have to go through a production facility. Right. There's 150 steps, and those steps are repetitive, layer after layer.
Isn't it important to follow the steps? Because I know that, like with what I do, which is far less tech, there are steps, and it is a process. And if you miss one of the steps, you're not going to get the
make it
quality
jump.
product because we're a franchise. So
You,
there's a way to do it, and if you like skip steps to
yeah.
make it quicker, that's a problem. So
Yes.
how is it important not to skip those steps and to follow the process because it works?
Well, the biggest way in our process was everything got inspected after X amount of steps. So if you found something that wasn't done, you find it pretty quickly, and it's junk.
Right.
It's junk now. You got to toss it, and that's
Right.
and that's great. That's a bad thing. So you can't miss
That's funny.
one single step with that kind of processing. But the what they call the typical cycle time in production would be a 6 to 8 week cycle time production. But
Right.
what they would call the theoretical cycle time would be the amount of time it takes for one wafer to go through an entire line without waiting ever, which is theoretical, right? And the theoretical time for this particular new design was 12 days. They said you could do it in 12 days. And now Toshiba's got the plans and we got the plans. The race is off.
So team effort was a real important factor for you. What did you look for in your team?
And I have a question also.
Yeah, people have to be excellent at least at one thing, but proficient in others for backup. Again, you can't have someone just be one thing. Like in a lot of unions, people will do one thing in the cars, and they'll just do that one thing for 30 years. I don't know if that's true anymore, but I always felt that if a person was was versatile, and they were expert at one thing, but you taught them other things so that they could pick up the slack if someone was ill, if someone was on vacation.
Right. And so they're cross-trained.
Being
cross-trained is critical.
Right. So you had a question too, Tamika.
Yeah, because I'm just amazed by what he was saying, that when he first started, how he went up those levels pretty quickly. So this is pertaining to personal development and mentorship type question. What was one key? I wrote it down. What was one key or philosophy from that experience that still guides the way that you help people achieve peak performance today? From when you first started, and then you went up those levels that you were talking about, that I mean, you've been able to master your craft. How will you be able to explain your experience that is still guide the way that you help people achieve their peak performance today?
Yeah, so say there's a brand new person, they're an applicant, right? And they want to work for the company because, hey, they heard it's a good company here, and it's $7 an hour, and the fast food place pays $3.50 down the street, right? Because it was a tech job. And you may say $7, that's not any money. Believe me, it was. In 1983, it was pretty good money. Believe it or not, it was. So I can make $7 an hour with these guys, and a 10% differential if I work second shift, or a 15% differential if I work third shift. So they're motivated to come work for you. So as an interviewer, the first process is to elicit what makes this person tick. And you find out very quickly in an interview, and that's why over the decades I've interviewed thousands of people, and I really can tell who a person is very quickly. And that's some of the Robbins training there too. But what happened was that we could understand, what are you coming to work for? And some people are going to say, well, I want a job and I want to bowl on Thursday nights and, go out with my girlfriend on the weekends. And then you go, okay, this is a type of person that's probably going to be competent, and that they may not be promotable material. At least now, they don't see the vision. At this company, there was an incredible amount of tremendous growth, opportunity. So I would be looking for the people that would say, it goes, listen, tell me where you want to be in 2 years. Tell me where you want to be in 3 years. Tell me where you want to be, because digital will allow you to do it if you want to. If you want to go back to college, they will pay for your courses while you work full time. That was a huge benefit. Think about that.
You wanted
paying for something. Go ahead.
You wanted to find somebody that had motivation to want to move forward and had a plan. Would that be correct?
Yeah, people develop a plan to become better so that when you come to work every day, it's not just a grind. There's something to look forward to. There's some other new thing, a new skill I can learn, and then I
Right.
can move myself into a better direction. And I can tell you to this day, there are people that would come on at $7 an hour, and I'll run into them either online or through somebody else, and they'll say things like, I'm an engineer because of you. I goes, no, you're an engineer because of you. I just pointed you in the right way. I goes, you did the work. And that's what I had lived my life ever since that 10-year career in high tech, 1980 to 1990.
Right.
I've lived my life that helping people become true assets and functional within a work environment is way, way more better than just trying to see what you can squeeze out of people. Because
Right.
that's how a lot of companies are. They squeeze out of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, the company, because I come from a corporate background as well, and people, we want somebody to perform for us. That's so that we can make money, because that's what it's all about, right? Is having quality people and providing a quality product, and then for me, it was keep the customer happy no matter what. Um, and so we had to back it all up with, yeah, we want the customer to be happy. How does customer satisfaction work into this process?
Let's take Cardio Miracle, for example. All right.
Yeah.
Cardio Miracle is a really wonderful nutritional product. You can call it a supplement. You can call it food. You can call it a lot of things. But what it
Right.
is truly a miracle. It provides a certain opportunity for the body to produce a gas that the body produces naturally, but less so as you age. And as you produce less of this particular molecule, NO, nitric oxide, your body starts to falter. The different systems of your body. We have many different systems, but all of those systems together is you, the human being, right? So you've got your endocrine system, you got your nervous system, you got your circulatory, your respiratory, your excretory, you got your, and all of those different systems, but they work synergistically to make you live. And you want to become like Stephen, you and I, we're quite a bit older than Tamika. So we want longevity, but we don't want just longevity. We want to have longevity where we feel good every day.
Right.
We don't have to get up and use a cane to walk across the room, or we want to be able to play with our grandchildren and such like that. So
yeah.
Cardio Miracle is a unique product.
Yes.
And it's not.
Let me do this.
I've
got a picture here. Let me put this picture up. Let me just do this. Move us to the side. This is the backside of the Cardio Miracle, because that's what you're doing now today is the Cardio Miracle story. It's got really good ingredients in it. Maybe you could just do this. We'll put Tamika up there. Can you maybe tell us about that more so?
Yeah, as I said, it's a unique formulation that allows the body to produce nitric oxide. Now, if you were to Google or use the browser of your choice, the search engine of your choice, and you Google nitric oxide, not Cardio Miracle, but nitric oxide, and then you put comma dementia, or you put comma heart disease, or you put comma kidney function, you put comma diabetes, you put comma skin conditions.
Right.
All of those things will produce dozens and dozens of papers and studies that will discuss the proficiency of nitric oxide in the bloodstream. Now, our product produces it. So, in other words, nitric oxide, it's bona fide. It's bona fide to the max. Nobody can deny it based on the research that's been done since the late 1990s now, basically 25 plus years. So the question is, how do you get it optimally? Cardio Miracle is one of those ways. It happens to be, in my 5.5 years experience of using the product, in 2 years plus experience of working for the company, So I was a customer for 3 years prior. Is that it's a bona fide producer of nitric oxide, which is a bona fide producer of wellness in the body. And at $1.27 a serving at the best pricing, why wouldn't you take 2 servings a day and spend less than $2.60 a day for your wellness, especially if you're somebody that's already ridden by things like blood pressure issues and sugar issues and things such as that. When you'll get a balancing, nitric oxide does the balancing. Cardio Miracle just happens to have the ability to create nitric oxide. So Cardio Miracle doesn't do anything for you. It's the nitric oxide that does it all. And the best way to get nitric oxide is using this simple formula of over 55 different ingredients that facilitate that.
That's really awesome. Okay, I want to go to a commercial break. We're going to play a commercial for Total Coatings. So if you're in the Sarasota, Manatee area, you want to look up Total Coatings because it is safe, non-toxic, non-porous. Truly is the best stuff. So let's listen to them.
We let our bathtub go too long. It had rust in it. It had deep pitting in it. There were chips. I, quite frankly, thought it was unrepairable.
Total Coatings is a family-owned and operated bathtub and shower refinishing company. We've been around since 2006, but we use a exclusive non-toxic porcelain coating that was developed over 60 years ago by a franchise in California. So the product is very well established. We refinish bathtubs, showers, wall tile, countertops, and even sinks. Customers want to know what makes our product different, and that's, of course, the exclusive non-toxic porcelain. We also don't acid etch the surface, so you don't have to leave your home because of noxious fumes.
I was completely and utterly shocked. It looked like a brand new bathtub. I would recommend Total Coatings to anybody.
Awesome. So if you're in the Sarasota, Manatee, or Charlotte counties, look them up. They are there to help you. All right. I want to start with this next video, though, for us, Mike, because I met, he's your sales manager, I believe. David is?
David Tousey, absolutely. David's one of our key people. I wouldn't call him a sales manager. I would call him a product expert who influences people to have better wellness. How's that sound?
So I met him. I want to play this video. I met him at Awaken America. That was a really, really awesome experience for that event. It is about Wake Up America because it takes you, I say you, yeah, me, you, everybody to get together because together there is connection here. But I want to start out with this, and this is the host of the event, and she's got an important statement to make about let's wake up, let's do the right thing.
Activated by playing on stage. Some of them are activated by just...
I need to stop before I play the next part and just mention, all right, we're not trying to promote any political standpoints here, okay? That's the point. No political standpoints. You can, whoever you want to vote for type thing, you can, okay? She likes Trump. That's what the deal is here, folks.
Activated by playing on stage. Some of them are activated by just knocking on our neighbor's door and checking in on them. So there's a lot of different ways we can activate, but we have to unite. There's not one man or one woman that's going to save us or save America until Jesus Christ walks again on earth. Amen?
Amen.
Okay. Not even Donald Trump can save us. He can't save us alone. He needs our support. Well, first off, he needs our prayer. Then he needs our support. But ultimately, he needs our action. We need to be activated. No more can we sit on the couch. It's non-negotiable.
So that's really the big point here. We can't sit on the couch and expect things to change from our armchair. We have to do something about it. So, what would you tell our viewers, Mike? How would they make a difference in their everyday life?
Well, it all comes down to evaluating your own personal value system.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most powerful influence tools that exists in anyone, for example, let's call us all influencers, all right? We're human beings, but we're all influencers. We're influenced and we're influencers. We're influenced by our environment for the most part. We're influenced by our genetics. It's partly, of course, but we can surpass those genetics. If you come from a family that has heart trouble, like the owner of our company, he found a way to live longer than any of his ancestors. His immediate ancestors, meaning his dad, his uncles, and his paternal grandfather, who all died of heart disease in their late 50s, early 60s. He's 73 now. So is that cardio miracle? I'm betting it is, personally, anecdotally speaking. But people have to discover what they want from life based on the value system that they have and asking themselves better questions. It's one of the most critical things that Tony Robbins teaches is ask yourself better questions.
Good point.
Like if I sit on the couch every night, say you work full time, but you have a passion for, I want to be a baker. I want to own my own bakery, right? But you work your 40 and you got to pick the kids up and you got to take the kids somewhere and you got to do this. And you just don't have any energy left. So you just work that job for 10, 15, 20 years and you never really fulfill your dream. But that's because you didn't take like 1 or 2 days out of your week, like a few hours on a Saturday, a few hours on your Sunday, and really get into the groove of what do I really want to do? It's sacrifice. Everything's sacrifice.
Right.
Everything that I've done required things that would have been possible if I just did the 8 to 5 routine 5 days a week and check out on the weekends. But people have to be honest with themselves. But everyone needs a coach too at some level. It could be a good parent. It could be an excellent teacher. It doesn't have to be like a business coach today. There's so many of us out there for sure. I remember when I first started with Tony Robbins, we were ahead of the curve, very much so. There was a guy named Tom Leonard who created Coach University out of Seattle, and that was like one of the first entities like outside of the mainstream educational world, like universities, colleges, and high schools. Right. Where this guy created a curriculum to teach people how to be coaches, business coaches, and he did really well. He did very well, and now like everyone's a coach. Everyone has their shtick on the internet. Everybody's
anything on the internet, right?
Yeah, but most of them are just like reading the same book that everyone else is reading. But here's the difference, though, Stephen. They're taking action. All right, they're taking action. Like people go, "Why haven't you wrote a book?" I go, "Every book's been written." That's my excuse, right? That's my own limiting belief, right? We have limiting beliefs.
Yes,
so that's my excuse. But when I tell some of my stories to a David or to another person we work closely with, she'll say, "Mike, you have a book in you," and I said, "Yeah, the title is Everyone's Full of Crap, Even Me, but read my book." That's like, and I joke. And I joke with her because, everyone has a shtick at some level. But we talk about coming from a holistic standpoint and from a spiritual or Christian standpoint. It's all about giving of yourself, giving value to people, and not 100%. Worried about getting it back. And that's what Mother Teresa did. If you ever read the story about Mother Teresa, Mother Teresa worked for a high-level, all-girls school, like wealthy girls, wealthy families, and she taught there, and she eventually became who she was. But she didn't come from the beginning where she was working with the poor in the beginning. Right. So she had her own revelation. She had her own, I can remember Tony and Martin Sheen when I was working with those guys. And I met Martin Sheen in Fiji. It was hilarious meeting him and his wife. He sang this old sailor song. But they went down to give her a mobile hospital. They donated a mobile hospital to Mother Teresa back in the early 90s and I remember that being kind of a cool thing that they were doing their part to help Martin and his wife, and Tony Robbins and his wife at that time.
Right.
But we all have our cycles. We all go through.
Yes.
But to answer your question, people need to ask themselves better questions.
Yes.
Motivation doesn't, like, what did Zig Ziglar say? You know, motivation's like a warm bath. You know, you got to take one every day, and that's the challenge, is that motivation doesn't cut it. But the belief system and the value system that you and I have about what's really important to me today, what am I happy about today, you know, what am I excited about today, and elicit the emotions based on the questions that you ask yourself.
Well, I'm thinking a bunch of stuff, but what I'm also thinking about is how, yes, asking yourself questions is important. Recognizing that, well, I mean, my story is, yeah, I made poor choices, but I was able to, I kind of knew from a spiritual aspect that they weren't good. And then the law backed it up and said, you're being bad. And I said, okay, all right. But it took a long time for me to learn that there was a better way. And so that's what we're trying to impart to the people, is that there's a better way. And even though we might make mistakes, that's okay too. It truly is okay, because that teaches us. You got something to say?
Yeah, sometimes in those mistakes. Yes, sometimes in those mistakes, you figure it out for yourself what your next move is.
Right.
That's how it was for me. I was in the middle of making mistakes, but I said to myself, okay, well, what am I going to do with my future now? So I too went to school for computer and engineering. You know what I'm saying? So that's another reason why I was so excited to hear about Mike's journey and things today, like his wisdom, because I can resonate with it. You know, I didn't go full hedge on, but I'm able to have the knowledge now that I can, give to my kids and to other people as well throughout time. And just hearing more about how he explained, asking yourself those questions, better questions, that's amazing, because you know what? That's exactly what people need to do to enjoy their everyday life. Figure out what you really want to do. And when sharing it, share where you're going, not only where you've been, share where you're going.
I think that you hit the nail on the head, Mike, when you said service, because it is about service. And it is about recognizing that when we help our fellow man, without expectation of having to get something for helping them, you're just doing it because you care about them and want them to become better. That's really awesome. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit more, Mike.
Tamika, you mentioned something, and Stephen, I was thinking about it. So it's also what you and I say to people, or young people, that could be profound for them. And like I mentioned earlier about I had one gentleman who he came to work drunk a lot, and I had to hammer the guy a few times and straighten him out. And he's a really big Irish kid, really big kid. Like, he could pulverize me if he was in a bad place. But for some reason, it was something about Mike Howard that he respected. Don't know what it was, but he ran into my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, years later. And of course, he knew her because she worked there too. I got everyone a job at Digital back in the day that I knew. It's kind of funny because we had so many opportunities. It was insane. It was a really good time in the 80s. There was a lot of work to do in the 80s. And so this guy, Mo, his name is Maurice, he ran into my sister-in-law some years back, and he goes, "Oh, you're Gil, right?" She goes, "Yeah, I remember." He goes, "Mike Howard's sister-in-law, right?" She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You tell Mike Howard that he's the best supervisor I ever had in my life." And I said, she came back and told me that like years later. And I said, I had an impact on that kid's life. Now, here's the story about a guy who had an impact on my life. When I was that work coordinator level, we were transferring everything over from an old technology to a new technology. And there was an MIS, they called information, IT was called MIS in those days. And this guy was Norm Ayers. It's remarkable. I can remember this name from over 40 years ago. And he put us through we were just getting used to using dummy computers. Now, what's a dummy computer?
Right.
A dummy computer was a terminal that was connected to a array of cables that were walled into the facility that led to the main computer room. The computer was in a big room, but the dummy terminals were at everyone's desk. So you didn't have a PC on your desk. You didn't have a laptop. You had a dummy, and you had a keyboard in there.
Yeah.
But the keyboard was part of the monitor. It wasn't, separate like this one, right? So
Right.
But we were going through this transition, and this guy Norm came in. He goes, "We're going to need to test people on things like just general testing on how to use these computers, these dummy computers." And I'm not a genius by any. My dad was, but I'm certainly not a genius. And he would put us through these 10-question paces after you learned something. And he goes, "All right, do everything I told you to do. Do that, do this, do that, do this, do that." And I did really well. And he goes, "We're going to need guys like you." And that hit me, right? One thing that gentleman said to me transpired into me saying, "Wow, I'm good. I got skills." And it propelled me to self-motivate. And that's what we all need to do is in all of our interactions with people. I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old living here. My daughter's blessed. My wife and I are completely blessed. And we have to make sure that we're putting into their brains at this time information that's going to make them extra functional and not dysfunctional, and have them, obviously you're going to have your terrible twos moments and all that kind of stuff. That's going to happen. But you have to find a way to train the brain at a younger age. And that's the challenge, folks, is how do you ask better questions classes did you take in grammar school? How to save 10% of your money classes did you take when you were in high school?
Right. And that's it.
That's one reason why I operate a micro school today. My son has to learn more than just what the original schools are teaching, because they're ancient. Like and some of the things they're teaching today it's not making any sense for our future, or not even for our right now. So I believe in that.
And that's the important factor is that we have to care about the youth. We have to care about our kids. I mean, we all learn things and we all learn different stuff, but and I'm trying to work to understand what's the answer to say to the younger set, because maybe, I had a good life, but I still made bad choices. And it's not because I had a bad life. It's because I guess I just wanted to try things out, and for my own, I had to learn the hard way, kind of like you were talking about, the hard road,
the school.
The hard knocks.
Go ahead. So, what do we say to our children so that they know that we love them and we care about them? And this is what you should consider to do if you really don't want to have to suffer like I did for 40 plus years making the wrong choices, right? Good things happen, but bad things happen too, and the bad outweigh the good. Bottom line. So what do we say to our children today?
Well, you're on display. It's not what you say, it's what you do. If you're at the grocers like Trader Joe's, right? The way you engage with the the cashier, how you doing, smiling at people, open doors for men or women that you're walking in and out of a department store, and when your little one sees you do that, that's it. So they're gonna like the old adage, right? They're not gonna do what you say, they're gonna do what you do. So it's all actions that we take, and we talked about the word action, taking action. We're taking actions all the time. No matter what, we're always doing something. Even inaction is an action, right? It's the action.
Inaction is an
activity, right? It's kind of funny, but it's the truth.
Right.
So when the kids see you laying down on the couch a lot, instead of seeing you go out and trim the bushes, they're going to say, wow, when they see Grandpa mow the lawn, he comes running out with his fake lawnmower, and he wants to mow the lawn. And we obviously don't want him near me because I got this motorized thing. So he's up on a little plateau and he's mowing the lawn, and then I come with the real mower, and then later on we go out and I say, look what you did, and he goes, and he's proud of himself. So it's the same thing with I'm a musician. I'm an amateur musician, so I play
glad
guitar.
that you said that, Mike. I am so glad that you said that, because that's exactly it. It's not what you say, it's what you do.
Yeah.
It's giving the example of how to be kind, how to be peaceful, how not to get rattled because somebody said something bad about you, this type of thing. I mean, truly, it really is awesome.
And learn to stretch too. Learn to stretch yourself. Like Stephen, you go to the events. Amy holds the events, and Pastor Casper and those folks. And so if you're a person that's not necessarily outgoing at the start,
right?
Like you go to an event, and you kind of checking it out, sitting in the back. Say to yourself, I'm going to introduce myself to 5 people, no intentions. Like, I'm not going to try to get their business card to sell them something.
Right.
I'm just going to reach out to 5 people and say, hey, I'm Mike. I just want to say hello. I'm here for this event because of this. What are you here for? Great to meet you. You have a wonderful day.
Mm-hmm.
And then do it with 4 other people, and then you break that pattern of shyness, if it's that, or just non-committal. A lot of us are non-committal. We're like, I'm not sure I'm buying into this and that. And but it's behavior change by scratching the record. Scratch the record. I know we don't use records as much as we used to, although vinyl's making a comeback. But
yeah, they
at
are.
some level, it is. There are still used vinyl shops, and some of the artists are selling their product on vinyl still, which is kind of cool. Since I've got a treasure trove of them myself. But it's scratch the record. You can't you can record over it, but you can't get rid of it, but you can record over it. And if you record over it enough, it goes dormant and it won't come back. And those bad decisions that you alluded to, Stephen, they won't come back. They become a lesson and not a liability. And that's something that you probably should write down, is how do I turn something into a lesson instead of a liability? And you can always quote me on that. So
is that what you would tell your younger self then?
Yeah, everything that I didn't do right and everything that I did do right makes me the human being that I am today.
Yeah.
Amen.
And if I were to take away any of those things, I probably would not be the person that I am today.
Right.
And I'm much more clear about who I am, and I can diagnose myself when I know that I'm rolling in the right direction.
Right.
And I can diagnose myself when I'm being a jerk. Right. And that's the part that I'm much more cognizant of.
Right.
It's like, when you stop becoming arrogant, not a good thing. It's a moving away from value. Arrogance, anger, stupidity, not
judgmental.
Judgmental, which is or prejudiced, right? Prejudging people, or prejudging concept because it's not your idea. We have that happen all the time in the work environment. I know we're running short on time, but if I give you a real quick blurb on like going back to the work environment and understand, and it can be done in the world of relationships or the world of hobbies or starting a business. But this, Ken Blanchard, the author of 1 Minute Manager, he said it all. He said that there's 4 types of people in the work environment. There's the enthusiastic beginner, and they're the person that comes with the wide eyes and they're ready to rock and roll and they want to learn everything. And this job's going to be great. This job's going to be great. Right. But what happens is they forget that they bring themselves to the new job. So some of the things from the old job come back and they get what we call into a disillusioned learner mode, which is the second component of that wheel of life. So it's enthusiastic beginner, disillusioned learner. There's people here I don't like, just like my old job. Why is that? I thought this new job, everyone was going to be wonderful. And I used to think that when I was 18 years old. I left the job thinking that, and I found out, there's still guys who talk behind other people's backs here like they do in the other place. Boy, was I naive. But a disillusioned learner can get out of it, and they can find their way to the fourth part, which is the peak performer. We talked about that. But here's the dangerous part. It's the third component that a lot of people fall into, and we can see that in any organization, and that's the reluctant contributor. All right, and the reluctant contributor is the person who has all the skills to do the job, but they're reluctant to contribute for whatever reason, and they are the cancer in the organization. And if you can't root out that behavior and transform that person or eliminate them, and unfortunately, will happen. That person will be more detrimental to the business than 5 reluctant contributors. Because I can take reluctant contributors all day long, and I can help them find their gold, find what makes them tick. But I want to take enthusiastic beginners, and I want to turn them into peak performers.
There you go. And I just do want to do this too, because David thought you were the best coach he's ever met. I want to throw that in. You are awesome. We totally appreciate you. We're hoping that maybe you'll come back. I do want to have David on as well. Tamika, do you have a last quick bit to add to this?
I am just so thankful to hear everything that you said, because I'm going to replay this for my son to hear, because he watches. And from what I've heard from the people at my congregation at church, they come back and tell me after they spend a couple hours with him, especially during our production team, when I'm serving, they tell me everything that he does, and they said he's just remarkable. And then I'm like, I wonder where he gets it from. And they say he's watching you, because my son, to be only 11 years old, he loves to pray and he loves to get in his Bible. So, I'm thankful for what you said.
Awesome. All right, folks, we are out of time. We had so much to talk about. We will have Mike back because he is so awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tamika. Come back and see us. We'll be here Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Get to Know broadcast. We appreciate all of our viewers. I know that there were several, but we are out of time, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for your story.